One of the things I love about entertainment is finding a director or musician that I really like and then going back and discovering all of their past works. That happened to me when I watched David Cronenberg's remake of The Fly. I loved the film so much that I ended up going back and watching Scanners, Dead Ringers, Videodrome, and everything else he had put out. That's the same feeling I got after playing Serial Cleaner, last year's wildly entertaining clean-em-up game from iFun4All. I was so impressed with the game that I wanted to go back and see what else this Polish developer had worked on. Now, thanks to the brand new release of Paper Wars Cannon Fodder Devastated on the Switch, they've made my job easy. Unfortunately, this 8-year-old tower defense game is no Videodrome. First released on the PSP all the way back in 2010, Paper Wars Cannon Fodder plays out like a mix between Missile Command and a tower defense game. The idea is to move the cursor around the screen, charge up your missile, and then shoot them at the onslaught of enemies. Sometimes you'll only need to target one type of soldier. Other times you'll have to survive for a set amount of time. But watch out, because letting too many of the enemies get through your defenses will end the match. Now, on top of shooting at the waves of enemies, you'll also need to use the power-ups and items to your advantage. For example, one item will slow everything down, while another will let you shoot a bunch of missiles in a row without having to charge up. But here's the catch. These powers will blow up if you drop a missile nearby, which effectively turns the game into a juggling act between charging up your attack and picking up items. You can't do both at the same time. I'm not what you would call a big tower defense guy, so I was happy to see that Paper Wars plays out more like Missile Command than Kingdom Rush. You aren't spending money to set down gun turrets or corralling the enemies into a certain path, because the real emphasis here is just shooting bad guys and picking up items. It's the simplicity that is both its strength and its weakness. On one hand, I'm glad that Paper Wars Cannon Fodder is more of a shoot-'em-up than a tower defense game, especially since it never gets bogged down in buying defenses. But on the other hand, this game needs a little more going on. Don't get me wrong, the action is fun and it gets intense in the higher difficulties, but there just isn't enough to the gameplay to keep this from becoming repetitive and boring. I don't know if the game needs more power-ups, a wider variety of mission types, or all of the above, but there's clearly something missing here. It's worth mentioning that Paper Wars Cannon Fodder can be played with both the Joy-Con controller and the touchscreen in handheld mode. Personally, I prefer the touchscreen, but the analog sticks get the job done too. Now, on a side note, I strongly recommend turning off the rumble before playing this game. The shaking is loud, it's aggressive, and I'm telling you, it never stops. The controller is always rumbling. Visually, Paper Wars is every bit as repetitive as the gameplay. The paper cutouts and hand-drawn stages are initially charming, but don't change enough over the different levels and difficulties. Worst of all, the backgrounds are bland, and the crates and barrels found around the stage feel almost random at times. Like everything else in this game, you'll quickly grow tired of the repetition. As a time capsule, Paper Wars Cannon Fodder Devastated is a fun way to look back and see just how far iFun4All has come in the last 8 years. Unfortunately, as a shoot-'em-up / tower defense mashup, this game fails to live up to its potential. While some of the later missions are action-packed and intense, you'll likely have grown bored of the repetition far before you ever get there. Oh well, at least Serial Cleaner is still great. Hey, thanks for watching our review. So here's the question of the day. Are you an entertainment completist? That is, when you find a movie or an album or a game you like, do you seek out the rest of the back catalog? You know, like I did with David Cronenberg. Let me hear your stories in the comments below. So, this was a busy week. I think we can all agree with that. Instead of the usual 4 or 5 videos, we posted 8. I can't say that next week is going to be as busy, because I can't even think about next week yet. I think I just need to spend a relaxing weekend with Yakuza 6, so tune in on Monday and we'll see what happens. In the meantime, click that subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then.